Adam Davis, you're like in the center of the whole product world. I feel like you're in the center of the whole product community. I was so excited when you agreed to be on the show today on my favorite product. So thanks for being here, Adam.
My pleasure. Great to connect with you again, John. And yeah, really enjoy our conversations and excited to be here today.
Yeah, and I'm excited about the product you're about to talk about. But when I say you're in the middle of the product world, and I'm in a couple of the communities that you're managing, but for our viewers, if you wouldn't mind just giving an intro, what you're up to these days, that'd be great.
Yeah, certainly. So, yep, everyone, I'm Adam Davis. I'm based here in London, UK. I'm one of the directors of product here at Product Board, and there's a few different areas that I'm responsible for. Part of my time is focusing on like strategic and larger customers and running kind of product practice workshops with them, pulling their group together, focusing on specific parts of the product development lifecycle that they want to improve, and then exploring how product board could be a good fit for them. So I spend a bit of my time doing that. And then the rest of my capacity is really spent on our product makers community. So that's the community that's run by Product Board, and we have a host of different programs that are really centered around helping people level up their product craft, helping them connect with other product managers in the industry, and also helping them kind of elevate their product practice and how they apply that to Product Board. So I spent a ton of time with different product managers at different stages, different levels, interacting with tons of different interesting companies at different stages and either their career, either their kind of business growth, or also their kind of product maturity model as well. So yeah, a lot of exposure to that. Spent a lot of time in the product world, but certainly love it and real passionate about kind of solving important problems and also the kind of mechanics that go into delivering really kind of impactful products to market that solve real needs. Sounds a bit cliche, but that's kind of what keeps me going.
Great. And I will vouch for the product makers community. I'm looking at it on my screen. I have it on my other screen here. And unlike some of the other Slack channels I'm part of, you got a lot of Slack communities, all the channels are lit up, right? There's just a lot of engagement going on. So I love it. I spend a lot of time there. So just a plug for you. You and the team do a great job, and really the community in keeping that alive. So very cool, and really excited to hear about your favorite product, given how much product management you do day to day. You want to tell me what it is?
Yeah, so I was thinking about this and I was like, oh, the certain features I love. So I was thinking about iPhone, like the AirDrop, I love that, or Wi-Fi sharing, I absolutely love that. It's a killer feature that to me is one of those things that would always make me want to go back to the product.
Yeah.
And then I think about products I use day to day, and like there's tools like LinkedIn that I get a ton of value from. And I think there's a lot of areas that could be improved. But today I wanted to focus on LimeBike because I was speaking with my partner and I was like, what is a tool that you hear me always talking about that I'm so excited about? And it's LimeBike. So for those that don't know, Lime is like the world's largest shared electric vehicle company. And they're based in San Francisco. And essentially they offer shared transportation on like bike or scooters, or I think they may have another kind of form of transportation, but it's like affordable and it's carbon free. And it's really big in big cities. Like in London, it's super prevalent. And I only really started getting into it when my bike got a puncture. And I was like, this problem that I had, I needed to find a way of getting around. I'd use them once or twice. And from now on, I just absolutely love Lime. So yeah, how do you want to do it? Do you want me to talk about it? You got any specific questions or?
No, I think that's really cool. When you mentioned it to me, it sounded familiar. I think we actually, my family, myself, we rented the scooters down in Washington D.C. and not only did it solve a problem, it seemed like it was just a lot of fun, right, for us to kind of get around on them. So, but I'm interested in hearing, yeah, what makes it a great product for you? You mentioned the problem it solves, but what else?
So I think few there's a few elements to it. So I think in terms of the problem it solves, it gives me the flexibility to be able to get somewhere quickly and not use public transport. it solves the problem of me knowing that I can get somewhere in one mode of transport and not worry about how I'm going to get back. Like what I hate about the bike is if I'm going to bike somewhere and it's going to be late at night, I won't want to come back. So I'm able to use someone else's and leave it and not worry about um, what's going to happen to it. But I think some of the kind of the key things that are really helpful for me is around you can book bikes in advance. So in the app, you're able to book them in advance. Previously, you couldn't do that. So you would try and find a bike on the map, run there, and then it was gone. So like booking that in advance just made it so much stickier for me. And I hadn't realized that improvement until I started using it again um, once my bike had a puncture. I think the other thing that I find really attractive is the pricing. So they've done quite a lot of work thinking about pricing and packaging and comparing it to public transport. So you get a really similar price to public transport. It's actually slightly more expensive, but it's far more convenient. And I think this business model works really well in more compact cities, but with a large population, something like London, where you can get from A to B using the bike much quicker than you can public transport, but it's slightly more expensive. So I think how they're thinking about that propensity for people to want to spend a little bit more on it is something that I think they've really dialed in terms of pricing, convenient, and then also just thinking about the competing alternatives that you have and how they price them. I'm not sure how if they price them the same in every market. I think that would be a really interesting thing to think about.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So just to go back a second, it sounded like you had a puncture with the bike that you owned, and out of necessity moved over to this new rental rental system or product. Did you go back to owning a bike, or did this just completely shift how you thought about transportation?
Yeah, that's a good question because I my bike is downstairs and I have not fixed the puncture. So
I think that answers it. Yeah.
yeah, I haven't because it's easy, it's affordable, and it's reliable. And I think one of the challenges that they have, and I think we could talk a little bit about how they can improve it, is that there's a lot of bikes that get stolen or thrown into rivers or
Yeah.
not used, and then that kind of that reduces the amount of stock that people have to choose from. But since transitioning to it, it's yeah, it kind of removed me from worrying about getting the puncture fixed, going to the shop, buying it, bringing it home, fixing the bike, spending all that time on it. And I just haven't needed to. So yeah, I'm not sure when I'll fix my bike.
That's interesting. I think you delved into something that I started this show off by talking about how busy you are. You've got a lot of things going on. Um, is there part of LimeBike that just takes the mental strain out of your day? Meaning, I don't have to think about, will I find a bike? I don't have to think about what my, where I'm leaving my bike that I own. I mean, how much comfort does it give you to use something like this versus kind of the ownership model that you were employing before?
Yeah, you're spot on. That's a really good observation. Like I think it provides comfort in knowing that your bike's not going to get stolen. That's a big issue.
Yeah.
And you spend a lot of money on that. So it provides comfort in knowing it's not going to get stolen. It provides comfort in knowing that you're not going to be spending more than say an Uber or public transport around the same amount. So that kind of investment from you to get from A to B is similar. And it also, I was kind of thinking about this before, and that's where I was curious about areas that they could improve to create a little bit more habits or joy out of it, is you're also getting exercise with it. So like
Yeah.
traditionally when you're, yeah, I don't know, if you want to get somewhere, you think about getting a taxi or a train or a bus, depending on where you live. And generally, you don't think about riding a bike because you can't be bothered with bringing it, locking it up, and bring it back. But this way, you get exercise out of it. So it ticks the convenience side, it ticks the exercise side, um, and the flexibility of it as well. So yeah, it does provide peace of mind, and I think that I would assume that's potentially a key theme that they've been thinking about. And like one of those areas that they improved on is like booking bikes in advance or creating a 24-hour pass or multi-day pass. You know, you're not spending too much. And again, kind of just circling back to perhaps one of those principles in terms of how they thought about creating it and the problems they're solving.
Yeah. Curious too, and sorry, we're going off script a little bit here. But as you were talking about the bikes themselves, and you and I have talked about product quality before, were there any trade-offs you had to make around the bike? Is it as good as a product from a physical, just from the engineering or whatever, whatever characteristics you think about in a bike? Were there any trade-offs you had to make going to LimeBike from the bike that you had previously owned?
Yes, definitely. But I think there's two dimensions to it. The main trade-off is around comfort
Yeah.
and familiarity. So the bike I have is like it's a single speed, it's comfortable, like it looks decent. And they're probably the two main things. It's comfortable and looks good.
Yeah.
However, the Lime bikes are electric and they're quicker.
Oh,
So
oh,
what
interesting.
I think as we talk about this now, what I'm trading off is it not being as comfortable, not looking as good, but it gets me there a lot quicker and I don't have to worry about getting stolen. Because one of the biggest issues, like from my bike, I have to have like all these different locks for it and make sure I put it in a safe space, and it creates such a headache. You can't just drop it off.
Yeah. I'm guessing, I should say, if it was me, I'd have less of a chance of showing up at my destination just covered in sweat with an electric bike, which might be a
Yeah, no, you're spot on. And I think for like you see a lot of people riding Lime bikes with suits on or going into the office because there isn't, yeah, you don't get sweaty. So that's another thing that they're ticking off. And I think that's why all their stuff is electric. So you don't
yeah,
have to worry about getting sweaty. And
nice.
somehow they charge them every night. I don't know how that whole process works. I'd love to stay up all night to see how, because they have this whole other customer base of people that come and collect the batteries, switch them out, charge them at home, and you get paid for it.
Oh, really? So that's part of
Yeah,
their supply is they've got somebody who's actually doing the work in charging. Interesting.
yeah. So they've like a shared economy of people charging and getting paid for that, and I'm assuming you would get paid per battery or something. So it's a fully self-sufficient model. I guess the only issue is when the bikes get stolen.
Yeah, I'm quite interested in, I was going to say obsessed. That's probably too strong. I'm quite interested in these two-sided networks and platforms. And it sounds like this might be one where you've got your riders, but now you've also got to make sure there's enough chargers out there, right? People that are going to take the batteries and make sure they're charged. I had no idea. That's really interesting.
Yeah, it's
Um,
like this virtuous cycle of you need bikes there, you need enough people riding them, you need enough bikes to be used so that you can
yeah.
recharge the batteries, and then you need enough people to charge the batteries. So it's the constant kind of circle that I would imagine the team is looking at.
So someone at LimeBike is very good at math.
Yeah,
Look this out.
yeah.
Good to know. So let's get back to the script then. You touched on it a little bit. I don't know if there's anything else. If the product team from LimeBike was watching this now, hi team LimeBike. What advice might you give them to,
So
to evolve the product even further, right?
yeah, like I think I've been I've been thinking about the different physical products that I wear and the habits that they create for me to go back, use it more, promote it, talk about it. And I think about my watch as an example, like getting the reminders that you haven't walked enough, or other kind of health reminders are kind of what I regard as more kind of healthy habits, even though sometimes they can get a little bit toxic, but it's a whole other chat. But I think for Lime, like if what I'd be super curious about is how do you reward people for using it?
Yeah,
And how could we use those rewards to promote people having that joy of using bikes in different locations and spreading the word? And like one example could be if you're using it frequently throughout the month you might get an hour free if you land in a new location. Like imagine arriving in Lisbon as an example, and it's like, hey, as one of our top users in London, we're going to give you an hour or two free so you can see these sites. Like to me that would just be mind blowing. Like, I love this company. I want to come back and use it. So I think rewarding people for their usage would be quite interesting. Um, get, Helping folks navigate to where they want to get to quicker. It's quite cumbersome, their directions. So they've started to introduce parking locations, and the joy of using their service is you want to get from A to B really quickly. And I think if they could help guide you to that location, you spend more time, you spend less time on the bike and less money, essentially.
Yep.
So I think that would be an interesting thing for them to consider. One of the real niggly things that you forget about pretty quickly once you're used to using the product is their onboarding. So when you find a bike, you want to ride it, you scan it, you're ready to go. This is after you've downloaded the app. You then
Right.
have to enter these details. Now, it took me like 3 or 4 times to do this because I had to scan my driving license. I had to try and set up Apple Pay. It wasn't connected, and I just couldn't be bothered. And I've been on so many trips where people try and do that, and they just give up and jump on the bus.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's like, how do you reduce that friction so that people have that aha moment of, wow, I've saved time here. I don't have to worry about where I'm parking it. I don't have to worry about getting stolen, and it's pretty cheap. And I think to me, it's always about like, how do you, when I think about creating products, it's like, how do you get to that point of value really quickly so that people come back? And I think it's like 80 to 90% of apps that are downloaded are never used. And I think the similar can be said to any type of product, really. And especially if we think about B2B SaaS products where you're rolling it out, users find it cumbersome, they don't find the value, it's competing alternative, rah, they don't use the product. So I think for me, onboarding, and then finally, just some reminders on, it's not a product you need to use all the time, but it'd be really interesting to understand a little bit about how many calories you burned, or how many distance you've covered per month, or a reminder that there's 6 bikes in the area. Would you like to take one instead of a bus, because I can see you're walking somewhere. So I think there's other ways that you could start to gently nudge people in that direction of using the product.
Those are great. And I think 2 of the 3 things that you mentioned kind of tie. You probably see me sneak sips of my my coffee here, and I feel a little guilty because part of me wants to go to the local coffee shop and support, and I do, and support, the mom and pop stores. But when Starbucks gives me that one free coffee every once in a while, because it's just this nice little, dopamine hit or whatever it is, little
Yeah.
delighter that makes me feel good. And it also feel like I'm getting something out of it. So I see what you're saying where, you land in a new city and, hey, there's a bike waiting for you. That just feels really personalized and
Yeah.
little something extra. And then, yeah, I don't know what my point is on the next one, but getting to value quickly, I just feel like in today's world, more so than even 10 years ago, 5 years ago, I marvel at apps, even because it's so easy to try things today, try new apps. Um, you log in, you use your Google authentication or whatever, you're already in. And I marvel at the apps that just get you to that value point as soon as possible and
Yeah.
shrink down all the stuff that leads up to it. And I'm famous for just, Xing out of, if I'm on the second part of the wizard, it's like, yeah, I'm, I don't have time for this. I don't know how many steps are next. I'm gonna jump ship here. So I love that part about just getting to value quickly. I think it's a real differentiator for products today
Yeah,
in the
100%.
world.
And it's not easy to do that either. Like, it
No.
takes so much dedication, working with customers, validating quickly, thinking about your segment, how are they going to do it, spending time with them. I think, quite frankly, being on the Lime product team would be fascinating. Like, you spend so much time out in the real world looking at how people use your product and then interact with your digital solution as well. But yeah, it takes a lot of dedication to do that well.
Yeah, agreed. Great. So last question. How has this changed your thinking in product management?
I think it's been good reminders, like
Yeah.
some of those areas that we spoke about in terms of time to value, being really clear on your differentiation, being super clear on distribution, like how are people going to learn about this? And I think Lime rely a lot on word of mouth based on other people's experiences. And then I think finally, how do you build valuable habits to get people back into your solution based on the problems that they're trying to solve, and just being relentless on looking at those loops, because otherwise you're going to turn into a tool that people create a calendar reminder to use, and you don't want to be one of those.
Yeah, that's great. Adam, thanks so much for coming on today. I learned a lot. I've taken some notes here for my own reminders, right, to start thinking about some of these things in the products that I manage. Anything you wanted to plug?
I think we spoke a little bit about it at the beginning, but we have conversations just like this, but probably more around the problems that you're facing as a product manager. So yeah, come on and join our product makers community at Product Board. You can Google it. We've got a Slack channel and a website that kind of outlines all our different programs, and it's just about connecting like this, sharing insights, sharing experiences across different PMs and different companies. So yeah, certainly recommend folks to sign up and join there. You can also hit me up on LinkedIn, Adam Davis NZ, LinkedIn. And yeah, happy to chat.
We'll put the link over in the notes too. So
awesome. Right. Well, cheers, John. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thank you, Adam. Really appreciate it.